Welcome to your meditation practice as part of the Open Heart Project. My name is Susan Piver. I'm very happy to sit with you in meditation, as always. We're going to sit together today for 10 minutes, and we're going to start very soon. But before we begin, I thought that I would tell you a little bit about myself. We've sat together. If this is your first time, this is our first time sitting together, but some of us have sat together for days and weeks and months and even years. And occasionally one of you expresses an interest in how I got on the path of Buddhism and meditation. So I'll share with you very briefly how that worked for me. And if this is of no interest to you, I honor that completely. Please skip ahead to where the meditation starts. I'll never know. No problem. So I have been a meditator since 1993, a very long time, and I've been a Buddhist since 1995. I took refuge, as the ceremony is called, in 1995. And we all come to the path in our own ways. This is not about me, but yet kind of it is. I was giving a talk in Baltimore a few years ago, or near Baltimore, and a woman wanted to come to my talk, and she brought her son because he was kind of maybe a little interested, and also I kind of think she couldn't find a babysitter. And he was young, 14 years old, I believe. And I don't know what he was expecting, but this is how it seemed in my mind, and this is in my imagination. He might say different. As I was giving my talk, I don't remember what it was about, I could sort of feel or see him kind of perk up a little bit, like start to pay attention and really listen. And he's become a dear, truly beloved member of the Open Heart Project since then. But that, I believe, was the first moment that he heard the Dharma that was meant for him. Had nothing to do with me, I just happened to be the one sitting there talking. But I remembered what that was like for me. And perhaps you have had such a moment too, where the whole world is sort of going on and people are talking and there's things to read and news stories, and it all at some point sounds like blah, 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 blah. And then at some point maybe you hear something or read something that suddenly cuts through the blah, 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 blah and says truth. And you go, wait, oh, what was that? And you know the moments when you hear, whether it's through reading or listening, something that has value for you. 1,000 million other people might hear the same thing and it might just go right over their head or pass them by, but for you, a bell is rung. This was such a moment for this young man. I could tell the bell was rung. That's great. It's great to find something that speaks to you that way when you're so young. I had such a moment, it was probably 1992, when I was reading a book by Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, the Tibetan meditation master, who brought the Shambhala teachings to the West, the lineage I practice in. And it was called The Heart of the Buddha. And as I was reading it at a yoga center called Kripalu. Back then it was an ashram. And my brother had convinced me to go to Kripalu, even though it's in Massachusetts, and at the time I lived in Texas, because I had been in a really bad accident several years before that. Very, very bad. I'm extremely lucky to be alive. I was hit by a drunk driver. I had a lot of internal injuries to essential organs that one cannot live without. And, it was a lot of broken bones and thousands, billions of tiny little injuries and cuts and bruises and so on. And I was in the hospital for several months, and I lived. But he said, you might want to try yoga someday. That was before yoga was on every street corner, basically. So I went, and I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. And I brought a couple books with me. One of them was The Heart of the Buddha, which I didn't know there was a difference at the time between Buddhism and Hinduism. I just was completely uneducated. So I'm sitting there. I had done yoga for a few days, and I'm in this dining hall, this vast dining hall, all by myself, because it was in between meals, and I was just reading. And in this book, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche said something like, the only possible spiritual path for you is your own experience. And for some reason, when I read that, felt like, metaphorically, I was blown back in my chair. I was like, what? I have always thought that. I didn't know I thought that, but I have always thought that. I must be a Buddhist. I didn't know that's what it was called. There was something about that notion that what you actually experience when you wake up, when you get dressed, when you fall in love, when you have a fight, when you take the bus, when you do your laundry, that is your practice. Those things are your path. What else could it be? What else do you have besides your own experience in the moment? Nothing. So of course, it was just sort of logically and mathematically made sense that the only possible path you can be on is the one you're on right now. Your life is your path, and nobody can tell you what to believe, how to act, what that path means, what people on the path are supposed to do. Nobody. You have to figure it out. I've always been an independent person, sometimes in a nice way, sometimes in a mean way. Sorry, Mom and Dad. But suddenly I saw this great space opened up. Oh, I can be me. And that is my practice, is being me. I don't have to figure out the philosophical system that trumps all philosophical systems. I don't have to live in my head. I can live in my life. And that can be my practice. All of that occurred to me in that split second. It was a wonderful moment. And then, as people do, I forgot about it. And maybe a year or so later, I happened to move to Boston, where I currently live. And I kept reading books by Chogyam Trungpa and other teachers. And I noticed one day that they were all published by the same company called Shambhala Publications, because they all had the same bookmark in them. And I just thought, well, that place must be on the moon or in Nepal or London or not. But then I'm like, oh, it's in Boston. So I figured out a way to connect with the people at Shambhala. I met them, and I was saying to a person that I ended up becoming friends with who worked at Shambhala, I'd like to learn to meditate. I didn't know I was going to say that. And we were in a loud, crowded restaurant, and suddenly it was like all the noise diminished, and he looked at me in a different way and said, what kind of meditation? And I remember thinking, wait, there are different kinds? And then out of my mouth comes the word Tibetan, kind of in a question mark. I don't know where this came from. And he said, I know someone who might teach you. And then later he called me, he said, no, he's too busy. And then I actually met him, and he said, yeah, okay, I'll teach you. And I went to, he is connected to Shambhala, and I went to his house for the first time we were going to practice, and I was very nervous. I didn't know what to expect. And he said, he was so nice, so polite, so sweet, so generous, gentle. And he said, okay, this is your first time meditating, so we will sit together for 1 hour. He saw my face, he said, okay, 45 minutes. And then he taught me how to meditate. And what I am teaching you in all of these videos is exactly what he taught me, minus the 1 hour part. He's still my meditation teacher. I had a wonderful visit with him just a few days ago this week, where I told him all about my practice and the obstacles I was encountering and the misunderstandings I thought I had and the things I thought I understood. And turned out some of my misunderstandings were actually understandings, and some of my understandings were misunderstandings. He helped me to see much more clearly. So I bow to him from my heart. Anyway, I've never practiced in any other lineage but this lineage, the Shambhala Buddhist tradition. I never questioned it to this day, and I'm a questioner. It was right for me. It is right for me. I'm lucky. There's something that's right for you too. Maybe you're doing it right now. Maybe you already know what it is. Maybe you have an idea. Maybe you have no idea. No problem. If you'd like to share what you think is the path for you, I'd love to hear in comments. Don't hesitate to share. And regardless, I wish all of you, from the bottom of my heart, the good fortune to find the practices and teachings that you need, whether you know it or not, and that even are beyond what you think you might need, that have the capacity to transport you from conventional mind to wisdom mind, to open your heart completely, and then stabilize in that open state. And that your path will reveal to you the magic of ordinary life as your path. So, to those of you who have expressed interest in how I got to this is for you. And for those of you who listened anyway, it's still for you too. And for those of you who skipped ahead and are not hearing this, it's for you too. So let's practice. I'd like to dedicate this practice to my meditation teacher from more than 20 years ago, with incredible gratitude that he taught me this practice and continues to guide me and help me on my path, no matter how thick I may be. Okay. Let's start our practice today by dedicating it to someone. I just dedicated my practice to my meditation teacher. You can dedicate it to yourself, someone who you love who's suffering, to people that may be suffering from natural disasters, but you don't know them personally, to all beings. But let's have this sense of dedicating our practice today so that it could also benefit somebody else, whether we know how or not. And let's sit up straight. And relax. Let the bottom half of your body be heavy from the waist down, very heavy, like it's a root system that holds you in place, connects you to Mother Earth. And let there be a sense of lightness from the waist up, of just blossoming and reaching. You can afford to reach and aspire because you have a strong foundation. You're not going to fly off somehow. The hands rest on the legs, palms down. Let the belly soften. Let your heart soften. It's already soft anyway. See if you can connect with that feeling of sweetness and tenderness in your own heart. And let your shoulders relax. The mouth is closed. The lips and teeth are slightly parted. And the breath is natural, in and out through the nose. You were already breathing before I gave you that instruction. So just continue doing that. Just regular breathing. And the eyes are open because this is a practice of wakefulness. And the gaze is cast down to a spot a few feet in front, 3 to 6 or less if your screen is right here. It's about 1.5 meters if you're in a meter country. And just let your gaze rest. You're not staring. You're just seeing without looking for anything in particular. And the crown of the head reaches up a little bit. Feel your body breathing. Feel the inhale. Feel the exhale. See if you can become curious about your own breath. What does this inhale feel like? What does it feel like to exhale? Your mind will continue to think thoughts. That's cool. If you notice, however, that you have become absorbed in thought completely, to the point where you have forgotten to feel your breath, great. When you notice this, label that moment thinking, and then let go of the thought. Doesn't matter what the content is, I promise. And the letting go is not a pushing away, or a, oh shoot, or a cutting off. It's really just let go. Super simple. No comment. If there's commentary, call that thinking and let go of that. And gently bring your attention back to the breath. And gently begin again, attending to the breath, feeling the body breathing, which is different than noticing or observing the breath. You're feeling the breath. So we'll sit together. Thank you so much for your practice. I really mean that. Thank you so much for practicing together. I mean that too. And I'd love to hear more about your path. What do you know about it? What you don't know about it? What you think is next for you? How you found it? It would be great to get to know you a little bit better. So please don't hesitate to share something in comments if you would like. And thank you for letting me share a little bit about my life with you.